Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering Proverbs chapters 28 through 31.
We're finishing Proverbs.
Yes, we are. The end of Proverbs.
Yeah.
And wisdom literature can get very repetitive.
Yeah, it can. It's almost as repetitive as the Quran. Not quite, though.
So before we hop into the show, 2 days ago, James D.G. Dunn died, and he was one of the editors for Erdman's commentary on the Bible. He also wrote a good 3-volume work about the origins of Christianity and the development of Christianity. It's called Christianity in the Making. So I recommend that. Yeah, he's done a lot of good work. So I was very saddened to hear about his passing. So this episode is dedicated to him. I don't know if if he would like the show or not.
I don't think he would like or dislike anything. He's dead.
Well, yeah. I don't know if he would have.
Well, I mean, we read stuff that he wrote.
That's true, we do.
So I bet he likes that.
Or at least a little bit.
We dedicated an episode to him. I bet he likes that. Or would.
Let's hope. But either way. Let's hop into some of the readings. What translation do you have?
I have the King James Version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version of the Bible.
We also have the Robert Alter version of the Hebrew Bible, a translation with commentary.
And, of course, Erdman's commentary on the Bible.
And we have the Holy Scriptures according to some Jews and the New King James Version.
Yes, we do. Those are also things that we have.
Yep. And we also have the Oxford Companion of the Bible.
We have a lot of stuff here, yeah. Some books by Mark S. Smith. We won't be using those. We also have Baal.
Yes, Baal. And you can donate to Baal, your hard-earned money, and donate towards our $666 donation drive, which at the culmination thereof, we're
going to be doing the e-meter thing with
Yep.
Scientology and Thetans.
Scientology. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, I know. Exciting stuff. How about we hop into the readings and we can start with chapter 28.
All right. Anything to say about chapter 28 before we get into it? I know we're in the kind of epilogue-ish, appendix-y section.
Yeah. So one of the new features, so a distinctively new feature, is the pointing to the law, Torah, of God as the way by which the wise person can find the right path. Elsewhere in Proverbs, this term refers to law or instruction as the teaching given by parents or teachers to children and youths. However, in this chapter, it clearly indicates the existence of a written body of divine rules and guidance. And then it also mentions Proverbs 6:23. What precisely was covered by this written law, whether it included all the 5 books of Moses, Genesis through Deuteronomy, or only a single book such as Deuteronomy, cannot be determined. Of course, I would say that the earliest strata of the Torah would be, I guess one of the earliest that we can call like a compilation and recognize it as a book would be the law in Deuteronomy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's also important to point out that this ending section is still the Proverbs of Solomon, but it is Proverbs that the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied down, which started in chapter 25.
Yeah, it was last week, yeah.
Yeah, and continues until the end, I think. There's other stuff. There's other stuff that's definitely not Solomon that we will be running into today. I mean, all of it's definitely not Solomon, but there's other stuff that is,
starting in chapter 30 it looks.
Yeah, nominally not Solomon.
Yeah.
Right? So, chapter 28. The wicked flee when no man pursueth, but the righteous are bold as a lion. For the transgression of a land, many are the princes thereof. But by a man of understanding and knowledge, the state thereof shall be prolonged. A poor man that oppresseth the poor is like a sweeping rain which leaveth no food. They that forsake the law praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. Evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. Ooh,
That's nice.
yeah. I guess that's a understanding by proxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Better is the poor that walketh in his uprightness than he that is perverse in his ways.
Yeah, we've definitely run across that theme a lot.
Yeah, though he be rich. Yeah, so, they do point out that the rich are rich because they're so great.
Yeah, but
Right.
at the same time, it's not necessarily the case, because you can have a rich person who is doing evil, as this verse mentions.
Mm-hmm. And you can have poor people who are walking in uprightness.
Yeah.
Though you would think that, given the things that were said before, that would mean that they would no longer be poor.
Yeah, you would think, but yeah, there's really not a great way to reconcile these two views.
I mean, in previous parts of the writings for this, we've had instances where they said the poor might not necessarily be rich. I remember that at one point, but they're not mentioning it now, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Whoso keepeth the law is a wise son, but he that is a companion of riotous men shameth his father. Ooh. Contemporary.
Although the translation by Alter is, but one who consorts with gluttons shames his father.
Those are completely different things. They have nothing to do with each other.
And there's not really a textual commentary on this. There's no commentary on the verse specifically in Erdman's. So
Great.
yeah, I don't know where we're at then.
He that by usury and unjust gain increaseth his substance, he shall gather it for him that will pity the poor. What does that mean?
So will amass it for one kind to the poor. This notion that ill-gotten gains will end up in the hands of the charitable is clearly wishful thinking.
Yeah. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination. Whoso causeth the righteous to go astray in an evil way, he shall fall himself into his own pit. But the upright shall have good things in possession. The rich man is wise in his own conceit, but the poor that hath understanding searcheth him out. We had this wisdom of their own conceit thing before, when we talked about that blatant no-win scenario with addressing fools.
Yeah.
He that covereth his sins shall not prosper, but whoso confesseth and forsaketh them shall have mercy.
So in a further reflection, verse 13 affirms the accepted doctrine of retribution, but quite uniquely in proverbial teaching, it asserts that forgiveness is possible. When the wrongdoer confesses the wrongful act, then it can be repudiated and forgiven.
All right. Happy is the man that feareth always, but he that hardeneth his heart shall fall into mischief. As a roaring lion and a raging bear, so is a wicked ruler over the poor people. Weren't they, whoever wrote these proverbs, weren't they aware of the previous proverbs? Or was that in Sirach, where it's like, oh no, there's a lion out, I can't go outside?
I think that was in Sirach.
It was in Sirach at least once, but
Yeah, like the whole issue about, I think I remember the lion being from Sirach.
Okay, then in Sirach, wouldn't he be aware of...
This tradition, probably,
Yeah.
considering so many of the themes are the same, and he was this wisdom teacher.
Mhm.
You'd think, yeah.
Yeah, and it's odd. The prince that wanteth understanding is also a great oppressor, but he that hateth covetous men shall prolong his days. A man that doeth violence to the blood of any person shall flee to the pit. Let no man stay him.
So the other two verses that we just covered, 15 and 16, they express a closely related idea concerning the evil consequences of wicked rulers. At the heart of a well-ordered community, there had to be firm and effective government to prevent brigands and criminals from exercising their power. The idea is that rebellion in a land leads to anarchy and the transfer of power to irresponsible rebel rulers who serve only their own interests.
Yeah, like Abraham.
A little bit.
Oh, man. So there's obviously, it's condemning people that do violence. A man that doeth violence to the blood of any person shall flee to the pit. Let no man stay him.
Mm-hmm.
So do they just not consider like criminals human? Do they not consider the enemies of Israel human?
Are we talking about verse 18?
No, I'm talking about verse 17.
Okay, I see it, okay.
Yeah, to the blood of any person shall flee to the pit.
Yeah, a man, well, the interesting thing here is the translation in altars is a man oppressing by blood guilt flees to a pit. Let none hold on to him.
Like when Moses was leading the Jewish people through the desert and they killed all those Amalekites, genocide, the violence against the blood of a people.
Yeah, I think and then you're guilty about killing these. You're guilty for killing these people.
Mm-hmm. And all those Canaanites.
Yeah, so if you're oppressing by means of that kind of stuff.
Which they definitely do and have rules to do previously.
Yeah.
Great that they established those.
Wonderful. Whoso walketh uprightly shall be saved, but he that is perverse in his ways shall fall at once. He that tilleth his land shall have plenty of bread, but he that followeth after vain persons shall have poverty enough. A faithful man shall abound with blessings, but he that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent.
Yeah, kind of going back to that theme of making money real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Get rich or die trying. To have respect of persons is not good.
Favoritism is not good.
Okay. Okay, that's a little different.
Yeah, so...
a little.
So these next two verses here...
Not drastically different at all.
I'm in the middle of this verse. Hold on.
Okay.
To have respect of persons is not good, for a piece of bread that man will transgress.
Yeah, for a crust of bread a man may do wrong. So if the first verse set suggests that injustice, that is what the term for favoritism generally implies. One should not show partiality to the rich and powerful. Then this clause probably means that a judge should also have compassion for the poor man who may have stolen out of sheer desperate hunger.
Mm.
That rich guy's like, I'm just taking this crust because I can. Yeah, haha.
Yeah, but if you're poor, you're doing it for food.
But if you're rich, you're also doing it for food.
Yeah,
you just
but
have
you
the
could
money
just-
to pay for it.
Exactly.
Jerk.
Yeah. So these verses here, 21 and 22, give examples of which in ways a person could seek to obtain wealth dishonorably.
You want me to finish 22?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. He that hasteth to be rich hath an evil eye, and considereth not that poverty shall come upon him.
So yeah, just about people obtaining wealth dishonorably. In the former, the unscrupulous judge or witness in a court of law could accept a bribe, even a modest one, in order to manipulate justice. The miser of verse 22, literally a person of evil eye, is portrayed as so greedy for profit that it disorients his entire lifestyle, thereby bringing ruin, which is definitely something, another idea we've seen quite a lot. How, the pursuit of this wealth can end you effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He that rebuketh a man afterward shall find more favor than he that flattereth with the tongue. Whoso robbeth his father or his mother, and saith, It is no transgression, the same is the companion of a destroyer. So.
Which verse was that?
That was 24. Whoso robbeth his father or mother, and saith, It is no transgression, the same is the companion of a destroyer.
Yeah. So if you think that's okay,
Mhm.
then yeah, destroying things is okay. But the translation also uses ruin instead of destroy. But yeah, that's the thing that they're trying to get across.
Okay.
Their moral values.
Yeah. He that is of a proud heart stirreth up strife, but he that putteth his trust in the Lord shall be made fat. He that trusteth in his own heart is a fool, but whoso walketh wisely, he shall be delivered.
So there's a note there on the fool. So who trusts in his own heart, he is a fool, but who walks in wisdom, he will escape. This is an instance of what Fox calls a gapped, that is elliptical, proverb. The wise man will escape from trouble, but the fool will not escape.
He that trusteth in his own heart is a fool, but whoso walketh wisely shall be delivered. He that giveth unto the poor shall not lack, but he that hideth his eyes shall have many a curse. When the wicked rise, men hide themselves, but when they perish, the righteous increase. And that's the end of chapter 28. If you're enjoying the stream so far, like, share, subscribe.
All that good stuff, because the dropping a like really does help us out,
Yeah, or a dislike.
Yeah, that helps us out too.
Yeah.
So whether you like or dislike the show, do your thing. Let us know your preferences. So there's some commentaries there. And we can hop into the next chapter, chapter 29. Is there any commentary for introducing this chapter?
A broad emphasis on the central importance of the moral framework of society as exemplified in the power exercised by those set in authority is a noteworthy feature. In this regard, there is less direct insistence on the moral choices that face each individual, and a recognition that the conduct of persons who wield power and influence deeply affects the quality of life that each individual may enjoy. The individual is not isolated and is inevitably subject to the way people behave in the wider sphere. The chapter does not indicate what exactly the individual can do to remove the wicked from power.
But, they don't want them in power.
Mm.
Yeah. So anyways, chapter 29.
Mm-hmm.
He who is often reproved, yet stiffens his neck, will suddenly be broken beyond healing.
So,
yeah, the broken
man,
beyond healing. That's interesting.
Yeah, but a man often rebuked, literally is a man of rebukes. 29:1 gives a new direction to the observation that the fool may remain obstinate in the path of folly.
Yeah, and we had that quite a while ago.
Yeah.
That was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The instruction makes the observation that frequent reproof may lead to a point where all openness to further reproof is foreclosed. The practical psychological point would appear to be that overzealous attempts at correcting an obstinate person will prove useless.
Yeah, they're just going to go further and further down whatever road they're already on. When the righteous increase, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people groan, which kind of plays off of verse 28 from the last chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, this proverb, like the next one, and several others in this chapter, is no more than a formulation in verse of a platitude.
Well, yeah, definitely. He who loves wisdom makes his father glad, but a companion of prostitutes squanders his wealth.
A chaser of whores.
Oh, damn. So yeah, the whole he who loves wisdom makes his father glad is, of course, playing off of the really early stuff, like at the very beginning of the book, right? Like that's why fathers would have wanted you to be wise, is because it would make them happy if you were wise, which seems to be one of, one of the other reasons given for why that's so important is because, you'll receive the wisdom, and that's pretty nice. But yeah, the idea of it making the father happy was interesting. It seemed a little, definitely not of modern sensibilities, but yeah, I guess that was important for the time.
Of course.
Yeah, to bring your name good, so people would just view your name well, I suppose.
Yeah.
Good family name.
Yeah.
Well, if you didn't have a good family name, then the king could just kill you and take your wife as his own.
Oh, that's all. I suppose, yeah. Either way, yeah. But a companion of prostitutes squanders his wealth.
Tell me when you get to the end of verse 7.
Okay. By justice, a king builds up the land, but he who exacts gifts tears it down. A man who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his feet. That's an interesting one. A man who flatters his neighbor. So spreads a
They've
net.
had nets and snares a lot in these.
No, yeah, they definitely have that a lot. But how does it? Because the net metaphor is
Trap.
Yeah, exactly. It's a trap.
We're going to get more nets and snares, by the way.
Okay. I'll continue. Maybe it'll make sense.
Yeah.
An evil man is ensnared in his transgression, but a righteous man sings and rejoices. Okay, so were they saying that if the neighbor here was evil, then it would be a net for the feet of the man who was flattering them?
I guess, because if people hear that you're constantly flattering this one person and it turns out that they're like a mass murderer or something, psycho killer, qu'est-ce que c'est, then I guess that can reflect poorly on you.
Yeah.
Don't talk up somebody super highly and, turns out they're evil, I guess. That's silly. That's a really circumstantial one.
It is, yeah, but it does happen.
Yeah.
A righteous man knows the rights of the poor. A wicked man does not understand such knowledge. So the rights of the poor here
are... This is verse 7.
Yeah.
So the cause of the poor. Cause here is used in its legal sense. The righteous man concerns himself with the struggle of the poor to get justice.
He says that it concerns the legal sense, but I think Erdman's has some commentary on this.
Yeah.
And
well, there is a bit, I'm not sure. Yes, the phrase "know the rights of the poor" should be understood as caring for the needs of the poor, rather than an indication of belief in a set basic human rights to which everyone was entitled.
Well, that sounds like a legal thing almost at the end there. Uh-oh.
But about this section that we just read, well, why is that in there?
What?
Okay. You know what? This is not going to be super relevant until later.
Okay.
They're referencing like verses from a whole bunch of different psalms or
sure.
Proverbs.
Okay.
It's all
Same.
Closing stuff. Okay. Yeah. Either way. Verse 8. Scoffers set a city aflame, but the wise turn away wrath. If a wise man has an argument with a fool, the fool only rages and laughs, and there is no quiet. So he's dealing with a troll. Bloodthirsty men hate one who is blameless, and seek the life of the upright. So yeah, that seems, way earlier in Proverbs, they were talking about, people lying in wait, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
This kind of takes up that theme again. Just waiting to attack people.
Yeah, lying in wait, like hiding in the shadows to
Yeah,
do senseless violence.
exactly. A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. Interesting.
The proverb articulates the view found elsewhere in the book that self-restraint and discretion are important attributes of wisdom.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
If a ruler listens to falsehood, all his officials will be wicked. There have been multiple times, especially like when we were reading through the Deuteronomistic history, when the only people trying to get the rulers to go down the right path were some of his, maybe not officials, but, they had people higher
Friends
up.
of the king.
Friends of the king. People higher up in the system that would try to bring him back, like Nathan the prophet, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have relevant commentary at the end of verse 14.
Okay. The poor man and the oppressor meet together. The Lord gives light to the eyes of both. If a king faithfully judges the poor, his throne will be established forever. And that's verse 14.
Okay. So, the insistence that when the wicked achieve power and authority, the entire community will suffer as a result, verse 2, is a recurrent one. Such an instruction is a variant of the more central theme of this section, that even kings may behave wickedly. They may do so through failing to ensure that justice is properly administered, verse 14, or by imposing extortionate taxes on the people, verse 4, or by listening to the lies and false accusations of their officials, verse 12. Since the role of the king is usually presented in a strongly positive light, especially in chapter 15, the shift of emphasis is noteworthy. In 25, 1 through 7, the king is portrayed in a favorable manner as the upholder of public justice, with only a small concession to the reality of palace corruption.
Yeah, and just to give a context to that, chapter 25 was the one with the men of Hezekiah copying it down.
Mm-hmm. The wider and undoubtedly more realistic picture of chapter 29, not 20 mime, may indicate a more considered phase of development, perhaps from a relatively late post-exilic period.
That is definitely interesting to note.
Yeah.
The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother.
There's more advocating child abuse in the Bible.
Yeah, there it is again. When the wicked increase, transgression increases, but the righteous will look upon their downfall. Discipline your son, and he will give you rest. He will give delight to your heart. So yeah, the whole discipline thing. I think we've seen this enough times in here where we can say, basically just beat your son until they shut up.
Yeah. Well, it says heart in yours. It says offer delicacies for your palate in altar. He says the literal sense of the noun nefesh is in context either throat or appetite. The conjunction with delicacies argues against any other sense of this multivalent term.
Where there is no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint, but blessed is he who keeps the law.
So there's commentary in Eerdmans about this. It says, there's no doubt, however, when they're talking about rights, that the Israelite understanding of justice contained a genuine note of compassionate concern to assist and protect the weaker members of society. A more difficult problem exists over the interpretation of verse 18. The close parallel between prophecy and keeping the law in the two lines seems to point to a rather weak sense of prophecy as meaning little more than an authoritative statement. REB reads, with no one in authority.
Okay. By mere words, a servant is not disciplined. Oh no. For though he understands, he will not respond. Do you see a man who is hasty in his words? There is more hope for a fool than for him. Oh, that's a low blow.
Yeah.
Whoever pampers his servant from childhood will in the end find him his heir. Okay?
What?
So yeah, if you treat your servant
Like you do your son,
Who
you're going to
pa-
have him as a son.
Who pampers his slave from youth. In the end, there will be dismay. The Hebrew manon, for dismay, appears nowhere else and is not readily linked with any verbal root that would make sense in context, which makes it look very much like a scribal error.
okay.
3 different ancient versions render it in ways that point to the Hebrew text that showed manad. That noun, literally shaking, elliptical for shaking of the head, is a gesture performed when witnessing some sort of disaster.
I suppose so, yeah. A man of wrath stirs up strife, and one given to anger causes much transgression. One's pride will bring him low, but he who is lowly in spirit will obtain honor. The partner of a thief hates his own life.
So when it says low and it says lowly, it uses the same verbal stem to, yeah.
Yeah, so the partner of a thief hates his own life. He hears the curse, but discloses nothing.
Yeah, the curse or imprecation is probably a solemn curse publicly pronounced that will come down on the head of whosoever has evidence of the crime to offer in court.
So the curse here, with the emphasis on law that we've been having. Remember Deuteronomy 28?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a curse.
Yeah, most of it was a curse. And it was honestly a very intense curse. Do you think this might be referring to those curses?
I think it's a different curse.
Okay.
I think
the
it's
phrase-
almost the curse of the public hating you. If from the phrasing, he's saying it to everybody, right?
Well, the partner of a thief hates his own life. He hears the curse, but discloses nothing.
Okay, so
this is in a legal context where it says, because it says the curse is probably a solemn curse publicly pronounced that will come down on the head of whoever has evidence of the crime to offer in court yet remains silent.
Gotcha.
But there's a little bit under here. Yeah, Eerdmans says the phrase concerning hearing the victim's curse is best understood as a refusal to divulge incriminating information when put under oath.
Oh, okay.
As CFREB is put on oath but divulges nothing.
Okay. The fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. Many seek the face of a ruler, but it is from the Lord that a man gets justice. Yeah, so why look for a ruler who, depending on the context, might be chosen by God? Why look for them when you could go to God himself?
Oh, yeah.
I just read that one. An unjust man is an abomination to the righteous, but one whose way is straight is an abomination to the wicked. Makes sense. And that is the end of chapter 29.
If you're enjoying the stream so far, like, subscribe.
Share it around. Definitely share it around. But do you hear something?
I do.
We don't usually hear this.
No, not usually.
Like once a week at most.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Holy shit.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
That was amazing. Thanks, Jesus. He's always here for us.
Yep. He's always there for you.
Is he just all right with you?
He's just all right with me.
Okay, that's good.
Doobie
I was worried he
Brothers.
wouldn't be.
Yeah. Doobie Brothers.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, we can hop into chapter 30 then. There is a good bit of stuff I want to mention before we, begin reading it properly.
Man, I see the book of Ecclesiastes
Right there, yeah.
Right there.
We're so close.
Come on.
Yeah. The rhetorical and artistic interest of wisdom led to the bringing together of several number sayings in which the formula x plus 1 is used. Cross-reference the earlier comments on 6:16 through 19 where the sequence 6, yes, 7 is used. The feature is primarily for rhetorical effect. There is no consistent indication that the formula was aimed at bringing unlikely or formally connected realities into a list. At most, the last of the examples listed may evidence some element of surprise, so as to express a moralistic point. Already, the 4 examples of unpleasant person cataloged in 29:11 through 14 prepare for the lists of 4 examples. In the 6 number sayings of 30:15 through 31, there is an intermixing of animal and human behavior patterns, which may point to some attempt to present a picture of a moral order that pervades all living creatures, both human and animal.
All right. Chapter 30. The words
Actually, I have a little bit more.
Okay.
So with chapter 30, a distinct change in style and character in the sayings takes place in Proverbs with what are effectively 4 short literary appendices. 2 of these are given separate headings, so 31 and 31:1. Although the significance of these is of only limited assistance in classifying the content. In the ancient Greek translation, the Septuagint, 31 through 14 is placed immediately after 24:22 and 30:15 through 33, followed by 31:1 through 9, which in turn follows after 24:34. This variant text tradition confirms the recognition that several short collections have been brought together and incorporated into the book after 22:16.
All right.
So even by their own canon, not Solomon this time.
Yeah, and that's a whole slew of stuff.
You're gonna have to tell me who these people are
Oh,
because
I will.
don't recognize their names.
Yeah.
The words of Agur, the son of Jakeh, even the prophecy, the man spake unto Ithiel, even unto Ithiel and Ukal.
Yeah, so there's already quite a bit.
That's great.
Yeah, the words of Agur, son of Jakeh, the oracle, utterance of the man, to Ithiel, and Ukal. So there's a lot to cover here. As the heading makes clear, the unit that follows, which probably ends with verse 9, is distinct from the rest of the book of Proverbs. The 2 terms that follow, oracle, masa, and utterance, neum, are usually reserved for prophetic speech, a kind of discourse uncharacteristic of Proverbs. What follows is a first person incipently confessional statement, unlike anything that has preceded in this book. The name Agur is otherwise unattested. So I can't even tell you who the guy is.
What about Yaka?
Well, it says nothing about him.
Oh, even
Check
better.
the Oxford Companion. It has like a whole encyclopedia, basically.
I mean, I highly, because remember, we have checked. You should look for
It
that.
has a bad
Yeah.
record.
You like we have checked for certain names of people in there before, and it just has not given us anything because like some people are only mentioned once. And there's not much to say.
Okay, I'm looking for Ithiel and Ukal.
Well, there is more on Ithiel and Ukal here.
Okay.
Yeah, these names and the repetition are enigmatic. Many scholars revocalize them and change the word divisions of the consonantal text to yield 3 verbs. Thus, Fox proposes the following. I am weary, God. I am weary and have wasted away. Although it is possible that this was the original reading in Hebrew, there is no warrant for it in the ancient versions, and it remains conjectural. So it's just really weird. We have no idea what is even being talked about here.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds intelligible at this point as well.
There's
I mean, so
nothing
far.
on any of these things. And
Ooh, big
the
surprise
Oxford
for that book.
Companion.
But apparently the word rendered oracle may be taken as an indication of a local tribal affiliation. Masa is a Northwest Arabian tribe of Genesis 25:14.
All right.
And that's as Alter noted, that's the word that's used there.
So Ithiel and Ukal. These are
Whoever those guys are. Or if they're even supposed to be guys or
right. They could be communities. Right?
well
Like Lawrence spoke to the YMCA, right?
well no the
Could be a sentence, right?
yes.
If you're in the YMCA addressing a bunch of people who work there, right?
Yeah. Although Alter noted that Fox thinks it's just supposed to say something different about being weary. So they could just be they could originally have been just completely different words in general. But yeah, we have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is going to be fun.
Yep.
Surely I am more brutish than any man and have not the understanding of a man. I'm assuming this is like one of those false humility things that appears at the beginning of many.
Well, let's find out.
Okay. I neither learned wisdom nor have the knowledge of the holy. Who hath ascended up into heaven or descended? Who hath gathered the wind in his fists? Who hath bound the waters in a garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is his son's name, if thou canst tell? Now, what's that all about?
Yeah,
That's a name of
That's verse 4.
Yeah.
Obviously, this isn't about Jesus.
What is his name or the name of his son? So, this formulation has obviously invited Christological readings that would not have been within the purview of the Hebrew poet, writing several centuries before the emergence of Christian doctrine. In the patrilineal society of ancient Israel, a man's full name was his given name and the name of his father. For example, Isaiah, son of Amoz. As in our society, it is the given name and the family name. And of course, this kind of happens even in modern society, all the different places. Like, they're not like, it's not like a legal name, but it still exists in tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I were to go by a traditional quote unquote name, because in Russia they do the same kind of thing. Like, my name would be Lawrence Alexeyevich, because my dad is Alexey, Yufa. So like that's kind of a thing. And then my dad's name would be Alexey Borisovich because his dad is Boris. because of course it is. So that's kind of a thing that happens traditionally.
Yeah.
And I didn't know your grandpa's name.
Of course it's fucking Boris.
But here it appears as like a question about the name of the son of presumably Yahweh. You know, I mean, there's like at the beginning there, ascending into heaven and descending. Well, you might say Enoch, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for the rest of the questions,
Scooped up the wind in his palms, who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak. So there's a lot here. So for who has gone up to heaven, only someone who could negotiate this trajectory, patently impossible for mortal man, would be capable of achieving divine wisdom. Okay, so maybe this is talking about a person who theoretically has gained wisdom, and he's asking, this is a rhetorical question.
Mm-hmm.
He's asking, what's his name or the name of his son? So I am thinking that, he's asking these questions about attaining wisdom,
mm-hmm.
but he's pointing out how impossible it is to actually attain wisdom.
Right.
You can grasp at it, and you can...
Which is why it's not really a relevant fact that he hasn't learned wisdom or knowledge of the holy in the previous verse.
So pretty much like, no one can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question, who is this man? What is the name of his son? And stuff like that is more like, more of the same rhetorical question.
That's
like show me who could possibly do this.
That's a striking contrast to the way that wisdom is presented, especially in the introductory chapters of Proverbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think these will feel different because there may be additions later.
Mm-hmm. But they didn't even try to keep like the philosophical consistency there.
Yeah, and apparently, this entire set of verses here, 1 through 9, is just completely distinct. So this might not even have that much to do. This doesn't even have anything to do with the rest of it.
Dang.
Yeah.
Every word of God is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. Add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. That came from a commandment earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
2 things have I required of thee. Deny me them not before I die. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches.
Yeah, just go ahead and yeet that vanity and those lies.
Feed me with food convenient for me, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain. Accuse not a servant unto his master.
So now you're on verse 10.
Yes.
10 is, completely broken off there because it's brand new. So the intrusion of the admonition in verse 10 against speaking ill of a servant is directed primarily against abuse of a position of authority, taking advantage of a situation in which the victim cannot reply. Its presence is unexplained, although it serves well to introduce the 4 types of objectionable personal conduct of verses 11 through 14, which does make sense. We kind of, discussed that a little bit before. But yeah, this is just a brand new section. Completely distinct from the other thing. Maybe It was part of the stuff before, but not the thing we just read.
Maybe these are additional words of agur. Or maybe not. Who knows? Anyways.
But it says that an editor may have inserted it here because, like both lines of verse 9, it has a lest clause.
Okay. Accuse not a servant unto his master, lest he curse thee and thou be found guilty. There is a generation that curseth their father and doth not bless their mother. There is a generation that are pure in their own eyes and yet is not washed from their filthiness.
Yeah, so, the first one is sin, obviously. The second one when we're talking about being clean, right?
That would also be a major thing for temple.
Exactly.
Ordinance.
Yeah.
Damn kids.
Okay. So this is weird. The Hebrew tsoah implies excremental filth, although it is not really scatological.
Scatological.
Okay. There is a generation. Oh, how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up.
Yeah, got no commentary on that one.
No,
Their
nothing.
eyes are open to something else.
Yeah. There is a generation whose teeth are as swords and their jaw teeth as knives
So this is
to devour the poor from off the earth and the needy from among men.
yeah. So more evil stuff there.
Yeah.
Although
Damn kids.
a generation whose teeth are swords and meat cleavers its jaw. So the relatively rare term ma'akalet, also used in the story of the binding of Isaac in Genesis 22, is not an ordinary knife, but the kind of knife used to butcher meat.
Great.
So now you know that.
The horse leech.
Yeah, so this is the horse leech. Okay, we're gonna get to that, but so this is another section. These are the numerical sayings, which when we started the chapter, I covered these a little bit. So yeah, there's gonna be quite a lot of stuff here. That's really, it's not really super interesting, but it has a lot of stuff we can talk about.
Okay. The horse leech hath 2 daughters, crying, Give, give. There are 3 things that are never satisfied. Yea, 4 things say not, it is enough.
Yeah, so that's the numerical saying we were discussing before. So the leech,
The horse leech.
yeah, some amount of commentary on this. The translation here is the leech has 2 daughters. This succinct aphorism is restricted to a single verset. One should probably assume, as most commentators have, that there is an implied human referent, a greedy person, or perhaps a greedy woman.
Is it a reference to Lot?
Well, I don't know.
He had 2 daughters crying, give, give.
He certainly did. So...
And his wife was punished.
Yeah, that's true, but she looked back, Yeah, either way, but to continue the thing, so the implication here about this, leech, could be a greedy person or perhaps a greedy woman, because the Hebrew for leech is a feminine noun. Some interpreters see the 2 daughters as a reference to the 2 suckers of the leech. Yeah, so there's that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
The grave and the barren womb, the earth that is not filled with water,
Yeah, so
and the fire that saith not, it is enough.
Sheol and a blocked womb. A parallelism between Sheol and the womb appears elsewhere in biblical poetry. H.N. Bialik, the great modern Hebrew poet, in a poem expressing revulsion after a sexual encounter with a woman, refers to her, quote, hidden treasures that like Sheol cannot be sated. Wow. Here Sheol is never sated with the dead, always wanting more. And the blocked womb, in an ironic antithesis, is never satisfied with its condition of barrenness, always hungry to produce life. Wow. Wow.
Wonderful. Always.
Apparently.
The eye that mocketh at his father and despiseth to obey his mother, the ravens of the valley shall pick it out, and the young eagles shall eat it. Is that like that gets referenced by Jesus, I think, right? Like,
I
heal
don't
among you.
remember.
If your eye should cause you to sin, pluck it out. Right?
Mm.
Well, anyway.
By the way, yeah, I don't remember.
There be pirate speak now. There be 3 things which are too wonderful for me, yea, 4 which I know not. The way of an eagle in the air, the way of a serpent upon a rock, the way of a ship in the midst of the sea, and the way of a man with a maid.
Ooh.
This
So
really
we're
is
getting
the
raunchy
midst
again.
of the sea, and you've got maids, you've got wenches. Man, this is so piratey.
I have asked.
Yeah. So before we continue onto this, because we've already read a lot about women in Proverbs. Usually not great.
No. Proverbs is quite misogynistic.
Yeah. So these verses here, 18 and 19, list 4 surprising activities: bird flight, the locomotion of snakes, the passage of a ship through the seas, and the unseen force of sexual attraction. It is an oversubtle interpretation which sees in all these actions forms of activity that leave no trace. However, this understanding of sexual attraction leading to misconduct has likely led to the inclusion of the further warning against the adulterous woman in verse 20. So yeah, we can just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
Such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth, and saith, I have done no wickedness. Wow, that mouth. For
What that mouth do?
Yeah. For 3 things the earth is disquieted, and for 4 which it cannot bear. For a servant when he reigneth, and a fool when he is filled with meat. For an odious woman when she is married, and a handmaid that is heir to her mistress.
So, for a hateful woman in the marriage bed and a slave girl who dispossesses her mistress. The commentary and altar here. In the Hebrew, in the marriage bed is a passive verb, which means is married or is sexually possessed. Jesus Christ. Fox's proposal to revocalize the verb tiba'el as tival and to understand it as gain mastery is unconvincing because, honestly, this looks like Baal because it's Baal. Does not appear in this sense as an intransitive verb elsewhere, despite the noun Baal, which does mean master as well as husband. The transitive verb generally has the sexual sense indicated above. The hateful woman enjoying conjugal consummation is part of a series of figures whose fate is disturbingly not what it should be. After the slave who rules and the scoundrel who prospers, and before the slave girl who dispossesses her mistress.
What about that slave girl scoundrel who
So it's
prospers?
basically like a know your role kind of thing.
Back in your place.
Yeah, make a Christian. Thank
Exactly.
you. That's amazing. Sexually possessed as a Christian horror film. Very good. And yes, hi to any of you as well. I didn't say that earlier. And thank you.
Hello to
Sabrina.
everybody.
Thanks to
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Chat's been great today.
Yes, it has.
Hi, everybody. Keep chatting. Don't mind me.
Reading the Bible
Just
here.
reading the Bible here. Okay. Well, this is interesting. There
Blows some minds.
There be 4 things which are little upon the earth, but they are exceeding wise. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their meat in the summer.
Yep.
The conies are but a feeble folk.
Who ready their bread in the summer.
The conies are but a feeble folk, yet make they their houses in the rocks.
Yeah, I have the badgers, a people not mighty, who make their home in the cleft.
The locusts have no king, Yet they go forth, all of them by bands.
Okay, so
Except for the Locust King. You guys forgot about him.
Yeah.
He's important.
yeah. So what I'm guessing here is how we kind of talked about, Erdman's noted before about the moralistic intentions that lie within animals too.
Mm-hmm.
Although I definitely see this more as of they know their role kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, their role was assigned to them.
Yeah.
Right. The spider taketh hold with her hands and is in kings' palaces.
So there is some commentary here for the spider. There is some doubt about the identity of this creature. In any case, it is something small and easily caught.
It's Peter Parker.
It's Peter Parker. Yes, absolutely.
Pizza time.
In any case, it is something small and easily caught, probably some sort of insect that nevertheless is able to do what no ordinary human can, penetrate the palaces of kings. And the note on the palace of kings, the Hebrew has a plural for palace and a singular for kings. So, not huge there.
No, the king has multiple palaces.
They can, yeah.
No. There be 3 things which go well, yea, 4 are comely in going. A lion, which is strongest among beasts, and turneth not away for any. I don't know. I think an elephant could stomp a lion. Just one lion.
Yeah, but
And
I think the
bees.
lions would try.
Those bees kick that lion's ass.
Yeah. And it's like other large
Goliath,
cats.
or didn't somebody kill a lion at some point?
So are you're thinking of
Samson.
Samson?
Samson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
killed
that
a
was
lion.
one of his.
He
feats
tore
of
its
strength.
jaw out.
Right. Like tore it straight down the middle from jaw.
Just tore his jaw right off, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
terrifying. Anyways,
A greyhound, a he-goat also, and a king, against whom there is no rising up.
You have a greyhound. I have the rooster and the he-goat, and the king against whom none can stand. So the rooster, apparently the Hebrew zarazir, has been identified with several different creatures, compounding the puzzle. It is attached here to the noun motnaim, loins, and nobody has come up with a satisfactory explanation of this
they
episode.
put in greyhounds. Thanks, King
I guess.
James.
If that is what it is. Yeah, so lots of, interesting stuff there. Although on the 3 last verses we just read,
The
so 29
3 things
through,
which go well.
yeah. So on those verses, no very obvious moralistic or admonitory significance can be discovered in verses 29 through 31. With its list of 4 proud creatures. The inclusion of the king is surprising in view of the general reproof given in wisdom against pride and haughty demeanor. The significance, however, may be that it marks conduct that is right only in its appropriate place. So yeah, I think
You can be proud, but only if you're a lion, a greyhound, a he-goat, or a king.
no, if you can be proud as long as you are doing what you are supposed to be doing.
Okay. If thou hast done foolishly in lifting up thyself, or if thou hast thought evil, lay thine hand upon thy mouth.
Thought crime.
Yep.
Let's get a hashtag thought crime going in the
Hashtag
chat.
thought crime. Hashtag blame the Bible. Surely the churning of milk bringeth forth butter, and the wringing of the nose bringeth forth blood. So the forcing of wrath bringeth forth strife.
Yeah, so one just follows the other.
Yep. And that's the end of chapter 30. If you're enjoying the stream so far, share it, like it, do what you got to do. Basically.
Subscribe if you haven't, all that stuff. But anyways, now we are finally getting into the final chapter of Proverbs.
Yes. Another one which is not attributed to Solomon.
Yeah, another one.
Not portrayed as Solomon's words at all.
In fact, there is a good bit of a commentary here. In fact, the picture that we have here for the background is kind of just for these next few verses.
What's up with the chains on her head?
I think that's her hair.
Nah, man, those are chains.
She grows chains. What do you want instead of hair?
Well, let me make a note here before we get into it.
Yes, good idea.
Since a new section portraying the role of the ideal wife is set forth in 31:10 through 31, the title identifying verse 1 through 9 as the words of King Lemuel.
Yeah, the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him.
Must apply to these verses alone and should not be regarded as relevant to the whole chapter. The title identifies the sayings of conforming to the class of royal instructions, a form known from Egypt and Babylon. The added note that it represents instruction given to the king by his mother makes it unique and would indicate parental responsibility for the education of a royal prince. However, it's noteworthy that when the king is addressed in verse 4, which we'll get to in a moment, but it's a very short note, and it cannot be ruled out in view of the conventional topics relating to royal responsibilities that the form is essentially a rhetorical device reaffirming basic royal duties. It may then have been composed for a state occasion, or even for the enthronement of a prince. The country of the king's origin is not disclosed, but is likely that of a northern Arabian tribe.
Yeah, and King Lemuel is not somebody we have heard of or ever pops up again in the Bible.
Now, Alter says...
Another one of those enigma names.
Yeah. Well, Alter says the words of Lemuel, king of Massa. With,
which would kind of connect to the tribal theme that we saw before in the last chapter.
He says the name is unusual. Nothing is known about him, not even whether he is a historical figure or a literary invention.
Yeah.
In any case, this is still another unit of wisdom exhortation, distinctive stylistically and rhetorically, that the anthologist has culled from an unknown source and decided to include.
See, for people like this, I always like to say that the only thing we know about the historical, in this case, Lemuel, is that he died. Which doesn't say anything at all.
Yes, it also says, the advice here of a queen mother to her son has no precedent elsewhere in the book. The mother, rather than the father in the role of the one who gives musar, reproof, admonitory moral exhortation, is unusual. Though in the preceding body of Proverbs there are frequent pairings of father and mother as the joint source of instruction. Her warning...
I wouldn't say frequent, but there are some.
Yeah. Her warning him not to consort with loose women or better with gold diggers is especially apt coming from a mother, as is the admonition to stay away from drink.
Yeah, so it's like if a woman says it, it's okay kind of thing.
Yeah. If a woman says it.
If a woman says women suck, then women suck, I guess.
Yep.
Anyways, the words, that's going to get fucking clipped all hell.
Yeah,
the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. What are you doing, my son? What are you doing, son of my womb? What are you doing, son of my vows?
The locution, son of my vows, suggests she may have taken vows in a prayer for pregnancy, like Hannah in 1 Samuel 1.
Yeah, that's true. Do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings.
So the strength, it says vigor here. The Hebrew chayil is not explicitly a sexual term. It can also suggest wealth. In verse 10, it is used in a slightly different, though related sense, for the destroyers.
Of course.
Yeah. He says destroyers. The translation following a Hebrew fragment found in the Cairo Geniza reads lemechot instead of lamchot, to destroy.
I also feel like doing a video on the Cairo Geniza. It was a very interesting find.
Yeah, because I don't know anything about it. What's the Cairo Geniza?
It's basically just like this library that was found in Cairo. Just like this cache of like thousands of manuscripts.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Like what's beneath the, The Pope's house.
I have no
the
idea.
Vast Roman
Something.
network that they have
Oh.
full of ancient manuscripts.
I sure hope so.
They legitimately have one
Good.
that we can't access because we're not in the church.
Yeah.
Better get in.
Yeah, better get into that church.
Ugh.
You know, we should definitely do that. That sounds like a thing we should totally do.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the
You-
weird thing, Sabrina,
wanna
is half the
convert?
time they're embodying wisdom as a woman and then propping it up on a giant pilaster there.
Yeah.
And then the other half of the time, it's the sinful woman.
Yeah, what it seems to me is the only reason that they're portraying wisdom as a woman is because wisdom is desirable and so are women.
Yeah.
So it's really just for like the sexual what's the word I'm looking for?
Anthropomorphism.
Possession?
I guess the sexual possession, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, it's just for the sexual symbolism, I guess.
Mm.
Either way. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to take strong drink.
Strong drink. The Hebrew shikar, from a root indicating intoxication, is not beer, as some interpreters claim.
I'm guessing it's just any drink that would lead you to have fun at a party.
It's in all likelihood grappa. Judges 13:14 makes clear that it is an alcoholic beverage other than wine that is extracted from grapes.
Which we have discussed before in Proverbs, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Landon was drinking grappa,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, that is true. He was. Lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and pervert the rights of all the afflicted. So, yeah, basically just you get really drunk and forget everything and do silly things. Give strong drink to the one who is perishing and wine to those in bitter distress. Depression drinking, okay. Let them drink and forget their poverty and remember their misery no more. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute.
So it is the obligation of a king to speak out on behalf of those lacking the power, capacity, or boldness to speak. And here, instead of, it's open your mouth for the dumb, for the judgment of all fleeting folk.
For the dumb.
But for all fleeting folk, the Hebrew, b'nei chalof, those who are to pass away, might mean ephemeral or mortal human beings, as it does in modern Hebrew, or it might designate a specific disadvantaged segment of the population teetering on the brink of death, like the perishing man in verse 6.
Open your mouth. Judge righteously. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. So it turns into a thing about women to a thing about the poor.
They do that all the time, dude.
Yeah, and from here on, we're getting stuff about virtuous woman. The poem,
Yes, the virtuous woman.
yeah, the poem from here on is in the form of an acrostic, with each of its 22 verses commencing with a different letter of the Hebrew alphabet. With this formal structure
Damn
and
acrostics.
and no doubt partly as a consequence of it, there is little by way of internal development of thought. Basic central themes reappear at more than one point within it. Throughout the poem, the virtues of the woman are seen in her relationships to other members of the household unit, husband, children, and servants. Moreover, her very life's mission and purpose are to reside within the household, to which she contributes, but over which she cannot be head.
Yep. Virtuous woman. Yeah, and then the title in here, the woman who fears the Lord. This is how you know you have a good Christian woman. An excellent wife who can, this is so weird because it's in the form of a question. An excellent wife who can find?
What? Thanks, Yoda.
Yeah, this concluding unit of the Book of Proverbs is an alphabetic acrostic. Thus,
What's
worthy,
the translation that that altar has?
a worthy woman who can find.
Okay.
It says,
So who can find a worthy woman, but because it's an
Copycat, aren't you
acrostic,
terrified of Snuffleupagus?
Thus-
Thing's nightmare inducing.
aren't we all?
Thus, a worthy woman is Eshet Chayil, the first word beginning with Aleph, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Chayil means vigor, strength, worth, substance. It is a marital term transferred to civic life. Some have proposed that the term invites us to see this exemplary wife as a heroic figure, a kind of domestic warrior. It is noteworthy that the editors chose to conclude the book, in which instruction by male mentors to young men predominates, with a portrait of the ideal wife. There's also quite a bit of commentary here in Eerdmans, and I'm not sure where to bring it up specifically with any of the verses because it's pretty general, so I'm just going to do it now.
Okay.
Wisdom's concern with the place of woman may be set alongside wisdom's attention to the neighbor or friend as fulfilling a vital function in normal, healthy community. In a society where the inherited social values drew heavily upon the patriarchal structure of the extended family, a review of the role of woman, like those of the good neighbor, pointed towards important modification of outlook. In this measure, the overall social perspective of the wisdom teachers reveals a significant shift away from the rigidity of older traditional patriarchal kinship-based orders of life. Women are accorded a noticeably larger share in contributing to the welfare of the home. Set closely alongside the figure of the father and husband, a woman finds her role as wife and mother constitutive and worthy of the highest praise. She is no longer simply the childbearer and the patriarchal head, but a primary figure in the whole range of the household's responsibilities. The language used to praise the ideal woman in 31:10 through 31 is fulsome and unrestrained in its commendation. It celebrates her worth as far more than jewels and shows her as unceasingly full of good works. Yet for all this commendation, when one makes a close examination of the contribution of such a person, it is striking how strongly the residual patriarchal outlook and assumptions of ancient Israelite society still emerge.
Well, yeah, it's pretty simple because the thing is while they're talking about how amazing this virtuous woman is, you're really only a virtuous woman if you
All these
do
conformities.
exactly conform to the things women just
supposed
do.
to do in this society.
Yeah,
I guess.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
So,
Be conformist. Woo.
there's a little more commentary on that, but I'd like you to finish
Sure.
11 and 12.
Okay. So yeah, an excellent wife who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. That was verse 12.
All right. So, for all this commendation, this appears to be the case right at the beginning with the commendation that her husband places his complete confidence in her and the assurance that he has no lack of gain and prosperity from her endeavors in verses 11 through 12. The benefits that she brings to him appear to be the foremost concern.
She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of the merchant and brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens.
This would be the female servants or slaves of the household.
Yeah. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hand she plants a vineyard. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong.
So the exemplary wife is active not only in domestic matters, acquiring wool and flax, weaving and sewing, but also as a businesswoman. She uses her earnings to buy property.
Yeah. But it's very interesting. We can talk about it afterwards, but the fact that you expect the woman to do all these things domestically, but then she would also be expected to buy property. But it's like, when is she gonna have time to work?
Right.
Yeah. Either way. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet.
This is a hyperbole. Warm wool garments would suffice to keep everyone in the household comfortable through the winter. But the clothing she provides is regally sumptuous as well as warm.
Yeah. Just the best of the best. She makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. Okay, so this is supposed to be the... Is this supposed to be like the wife of some high, maybe not a high priest or something, but of a known priest or of...
It says
he
is able to participate in the deliberations of justice while she is busy providing for the needs of the household, but the affluence that she has made possible also enables him to hold his head up among the elders.
Okay, so they're all like, man, your wife is so great.
Yeah, she's doing a good job.
Well, it's more like that you would only be able to have the time and ability to
do that stuff.
To do that if he has a good wife who's doing all this other stuff.
Right, okay. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchant. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. Okay.
Wait, did you read 24?
Yeah, she makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchant.
Okay, the merchant. The Hebrew says Canaanite.
Ooh, spooky.
A gentilic term.
Speaking of Canaanite, here's Ball. Ball needs money. Give Ball money.
Once we get $666 in donations, we're getting a thetan meter. We're going to see who's the most clear, and we're going to take it apart.
I'll tell you how it works.
Yeah.
Let's continue.
But a gentilic term that is also the designation of a profession because of the prominence of Canaanites, perhaps assimilated to Phoenicians as traders.
Okay. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. What is the bread of idleness? Is it stale bread? Because
eating the bread of idleness is like choosing to be idle. Right?
Okay.
I'm assuming.
I think that would be better, yeah. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all.
At this penultimate point of the poem, the thematic term chayil, worthy, returns. It is also strategically effective that the husband, who has benefited from the wife's prodigious efforts and until now has been in the background of the poem, trusting his wife and sitting with the elders in the gates, steps forward to address her in superlative praise. The force of the direct address is underscored by the emphatic use of the second-person singular female pronoun at in the second verset, but you surpass them all.
Charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands.
The fruit of labor, basically.
Yeah. And let her works praise her in the gates.
Wow. We finished Proverbs.
We have finished Proverbs. Man, that felt good to not... It feels good to not be in Proverbs anymore, although I'm not too happy about being in Ecclesiastes either. But you know what? Whatever. We are done with Proverbs.
Closing thoughts on Proverbs.
You know...
They were better than Psalms.
Yes, Proverbs were definitely better than Psalms. I 100% prefer Proverbs over Psalms.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like not even a question. But I thought there was some good advice, some stuff that just kind of makes sense. It's kind of common knowledge now.
Yeah,
We just call it common sense.
It might not have been common knowledge at the time.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and even some of the things that they have in there that are good aren't necessarily easy to reflect in law. Like,
Yeah.
take it upon yourself to be a better person or something isn't a law, but
Yeah.
like, you
Like
know,
it's not illegal to be a douche.
it's not illegal to be a douche, but you know, maybe it should be. I don't know.
Well, the understanding of struggles between social classes is not really addressed very well.
Yeah,
Like,
really not.
They try extensively and fail.
And they fail every single time.
Yeah.
And yeah, the stuff on women is just, it's very misogynistic.
Yeah.
This guy did not like women.
Now the whole
He
like,
liked a woman who basically did everything and did not really get a break.
yeah.
Yeah, and
All the household stuff.
you can keep some of the stuff you make. Oof, yeah, oof. Just some of it.
But also it seems like wisdom, I mean functionally wisdom is just being religious. Like it doesn't really mean you have great discernment in Proverbs. It really means that you're
When it does,
doing what the
it's common
scriptures
sense,
say
yeah.
you're supposed to do.
Yeah, there's that, but I'm also getting the humbleness, the kind of like listening to people instead of talking, like that kind of thing. Apparently, is very wise to do.
Well, I mean, generally it is, because otherwise you don't know if you're even responding to something adequately.
Exactly. Yeah. So that makes sense, but I feel like that's the other side, other than the religious one.
Right. I'd
They
say there's
have a lot about families and households in there, and the majority of the ones where they're not talking about all the pious crap are totally fine. Like, basically clean up after yourself was mentioned at least once, and a couple other very basic tasks. But like in our society today, it would be very surprising to me if these weren't imparted upon somebody in some other way. I mean, for sure, I didn't learn these from the Bible, but they made sense. And the parts that didn't make sense are either incredibly dated and misogynistic, or even just, culturalist, I guess. It's culturally superior notions.
right, but it also, now I'm not sure if it's intentional or not, but it points out how unwise many of the leaders of the Hebrew people.
Yeah, definitely.
Abraham,
They jabbed at the kings and the rich all the time.
Moses even would be a fool according to Proverbs. If you take some of the verses in Proverbs very strictly, you can make the argument that Moses is an idiot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Or at least a fool in the sense of, striving for wickedness and all that stuff. Yeah, but it's it's definitely better than Psalms.
That's our rating. Better than Psalms.
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't mind reading it because some of it was just ridiculous.
it would be more interesting if there were more diversity in it. Like,
because it was incredible. Yeah,
Quite a bit
incredibly
of
repetitive.
reusage, if not just repetition.
yeah, but also like we even get like the words of Agur and the words of Lemuel at the end there.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe if those weren't used as an appendix and if they were just like sprinkled in somewhere, I think it would have helped with the pacing of the book a lot, because it feels really samey at different points.
Yeah, which really speaks to the textual tradition as well, because of the weird parts that certain things pop up in other manuscript traditions, like the Septuagint that was noted.
Yeah, I also would state that at certain points, kind of like Ben Sirach, but a little less, they have quite a bit of dissonance between the translations that are there, and therefore there are things that are included or excluded depending on it. I definitely worse than Ben Sirach, and I mean, but for the Bible, that's less common so far, at least from what we've read.
There are, for what we read so far, because there are just less manuscripts of
and so probably they're older and or less dissonance about what they contain.
Yeah, there's textual criticism is I think it's a very interesting field, honestly. If you want to read some good books on textual criticism, stuff by Bruce Metzger, the text of the New Testament, I think is what it's called. Is this like introductory thing on it? It's really interesting. But basically they do the same kind of methods for Hebrew, except for Hebrew, and there are less manuscripts available. But yeah, they're still just trying to come to good conclusions about what is the most likely original text. That's what, textual critics are always trying to find in the end. And it's not exactly possible right now.
Especially with some words that we don't even know what they mean anymore,
Yeah.
and placements where they just use things like Greyhound instead. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. But it's an interesting field. Either way, very clunky textual history for this book, especially the end part there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's also, it's not consistent philosophically. So you have points where you argue in favor of one thing and then argue in favor of its opposite.
Yeah,
later
I also
on.
think that might have something to do with the fact that whatever nuance might have been applied to that so that it was a more specific situation. I think I remember Alter or Eerdman stating in the commentary when you were reading it that they do that. They did that for that specific one you're talking about, I think. They did indeed mean a non-contradictory statement. They meant in these circumstances
That's
you
what I
should
think, yeah.
share wisdom with fools is what it was, right?
Right,
That's
specific.
close. It was.
That's not a contradictory statement, but like
There were.
there are definitely contradictory statements throughout Proverbs, like especially when they're talking about like how great or terrible rich and poor people are. Like there are contradictory statements throughout.
Yeah,
So-
they go back and forth on whether or not you should worry about being wealthy and whether or not you should worry about being pious more.
It kind of seems like the author, or perhaps authors, whatever label you want to put on it, the writers of Proverbs were very conflicted.
Mhm.
A lot of, they had a lot of personal battles they were trying to figure out while they were writing it, I guess.
And that's a good reason to reject the traditional notion that most of these are Proverbs of Solomon.
Right, yeah.
Because, I mean, if they were Proverbs of Solomon, then Solomon has a whole bunch of contradictory ideas.
How wise.
Yeah, how wise. Either way, I think today was a good show. I think Proverbs was all right.
I think James D.G. Dunn would
Yes.
be happy.
James D.G. Dunn, condolences go out to his family and friends.
And
And-
haters even.
Sure. Condolences.
Haters
All
too.
around.
Look,
well.
if you're a hater of someone and then they die and you lose the ability to hate on that person for what they're doing,
Were you ever really a hater?
well, you've lost something too,
Yes.
right?
You've lost an anti-fan.
Yeah.
Either way, that would be the end of the show today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
If you enjoyed the stream today,
yes.
check us out on Teespring for
Shilling.
wacky and
We're-
fun t-shirts.
We're going to shill.
Yep, Shelling. Check us out on Patreon, where we have a number of benefits you could get. You could get for $1. You could get all of the scripts to our pre-written shows. For $10, you get entered into a monthly T-shirt giveaway.
For $5, you can get books that we publish.
For $20, you can get invited to live events if we ever hold a live event.
And yeah.
And for $50,
You also get included into the after shows, not the after shows,
Yeah.
but like the patron hangouts.
patron hangouts. And for $50, you get all that, and you can be on one of our weekly shows once a month.
So there's that. We also have Facebook and Twitter, and those it's free to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. So go do that. Links are in the description. We also have an Amazon wish list.
Which is not free, but hey, it's cool.
wish it was.
Looking at it is free.
Yeah, looking at it's free.
Yeah, it's good. Look at it all you want. No charge. So we got a lot of great books on there because it is, in fact, exclusively books. You could add to this table of books, or you can get us something on a certain topic. If you want to see a video on it,
We have a bookshelf
Yeah.
waiting for it right here. Once, we can reference it anytime then.
Yeah. Give us more sources. We can read through the books and we can use them as sources for future videos.
Yep.
Yeah. So
So with all that being said, I think that's all for the day.
yeah. Yeah, it is.
We will
And
see
you on
Friday
but also
and Sunday.
Sunday. And this needs to change.
It did.
It did?
Did?
Yeah, it's still there. I'm leaving it up, and
Oh,
we're still
see
streaming.
you Friday. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's-
amazing. See you Friday.
See you Friday.
I suppose.